Stitch. So I'm here to talk to you today about engaging your workforce with the right HR software. And I've sort of framed my presentation around two main questions. So one question is, what would HR look like without software, and what does it look like to manage people without HR software? So like I said, I've sort of framed my presentation around those two questions. So what does it look like to manage people without HR software? So I know the answer to these questions because of a job I had before coming to Zoho. So I used to actually work in finance. So I would do a bunch of different types of reporting. I would run risk analysis, I would do reports, and I would also build out reports that outlined the different expenses associated with certain mutual funds. So I used a lot of different software to do that. I used like eMoney, Reuters, Morningstar, and then of course my own built out spreadsheets. But what we didn't have software for, even though we had this complicated software for all of the reporting that I was doing, we didn't have software for HR. And I know this because one day my manager came into my office and she was like, "Don't be mad at me," which is a very scary thing to hear when somebody is holding your paycheck in their hand. And I said, "Okay." And she said, "I have been miscalculating your pay for weeks," because she had been manually calculating my paychecks, and I guess she had just made a couple of mistakes. So when you don't give your employees or you don't give yourself the tools you need to do those, seemingly basic tasks, it leaves you susceptible to different types of errors. And some things like attendance and leave tracking and even just checking in and out or whatever, those things can become very error prone when you don't have a system to help you with them. So I looked at my paycheck, and it was a little bit higher than normal. And I also looked at the other check that she handed me, and it was like from weeks of back pay. And she told me, "Think of this as a raise." And do you know what I said in response to her as a naive 22-year-old? I was like, "Thank you." When I should have said, "Maybe you need Zoho People or some sort of HR software." So Zoho People is our headquarters for all things HR. It's where you can centralize all that valuable information. It's where you can eliminate some busy work, improve communication, and where you can do a bunch of day-to-day tasks that can become very difficult when you don't have something to manage it, right? So when somebody is brought on to your organization, first they'll sign some policies. So they will maybe do like an offer letter, they'll sign the handbook, some contracts, whatever. They'll go through their onboarding. And then during my research for this presentation, I found that only 32% of organizations actually have a formal onboarding program, even though over half of employees surveyed say that they could perform their job better if they had some sort of formal onboarding. So Zoho People helps in 3 different HR areas, and you can automate all these things. You can automate your onboarding process as well, so it makes it really, really easy for you to say, have this person sign this document, and this document. It'll send an automated message to somebody's manager to say, hey, can you give this person a tour? And then it will also automate things like leave and attendance and things like that. So the 3 main areas Zoho People can help you with are managing time, and that can look like managing your attendance, so checking in and out. It can look like timesheets, whether that's for full-time employees or for contractors even. And then it will also help you track leave, so you can make sure that you're keeping track of all that loss of pay and not accidentally underpay people for months or weeks or whatever. And then it can also help you manage your finances. So we do have a built-in connection with Zoho Expense. So this does all of your expense reporting. I have it as an app on my phone because I do have to travel a lot. It's very nice to just be able to take a picture of it. And then this would be, of course, synced up with Zoho People. We also have payroll. So our payroll is actually only available in California and Texas. We're just making sure that we're compliant with all of the different rules and regulations in different areas. And then soon we'll also have a benefits portal. This next area that Zoho People can help you with is empowering your workforce. This is very important. Zoho One has this really handy administrative panel where you can deploy software. So you can give people access to certain software, and you can give people permission within that software, and it just gives you one centralized dashboard to do that. So that can be very helpful in giving people the tools they need to do their jobs. Another thing that we have within Zoho People is this asset tracker. So if you have things like company phones or company laptops, it gives you a place to keep track of all of those things. And then, of course, we also have a performance module. So this really helps to keep people motivated, think about their long-term goals, and I will show you that in just a second. So this is Zoho People. I am in the account for David Ingis. He's the CEO, so I have some special permissions within this account. And you can see at the self-service portal, you can see this skill set. This is from the performance module that I was just discussing. It also has some of his basic contact information. So this is a self-service portal, so he can go in here and change these different things if he moves or if he gets a new cell phone number or something like that. And this kind of eliminates some of the errors that might turn up if you say you tell your HR person, oh, here is a Post-it note with my new phone number, can you add this or whatever, and sometimes things just get messed up. So if he can just do that himself, that's better. I know I'm spending kind of a lot of time on this self-service portal, but it does help you in the long run. I'm going to skip the leave tracker for now. I'm going to save that for last. So I'm going to show you this time tracking module. So this time tracking module, you can have you can select a different client. So if you have a client-based organization model, you can select a client, and then you can select a project, and you can select the job within that project, and you can start billing this client for time and keep track of that there. We do also integrate with Zoho Projects. So there's a couple different places within the Zoho ecosystem that you can track time, and this is just one of those places. But this will also push to Zoho Projects, so that if somebody has a task that have already been assigned, their manager will be able to see it within Projects too, so that's kind of nice. We also have this timesheet section. We do have this module here where you can ask your contractors to send you a timesheet at whatever interval is appropriate for your business. So if that might be once a month or something like that, and you can upload their timesheet here, and it will, of course, work that out with payroll. A lot of people don't want to pay for licenses for their contractors, which is totally understandable. They're, sometimes they're temporary. What you can do in that case is just go to settings, that little gear on the bottom left, go under organization, and go to employee profiles, and you can create an employee profile for your contractor with a unique employee ID and their name, and that way you can associate those timesheets with that employee to help keep yourself organized. So that's nice, and then you don't have to buy a whole other license for this temporary kind of worker. And next we have attendance. So this attendance tracker is something that I like to talk about because it has some cool features. So you have your employees check in when they arrive, check out when they leave, and you can integrate this with a thumbprint scanner or even with a mobile app on your phone. But how do you know that your employee is checking in from your office and not just from the bar, right? So what you can do is go into settings and go under user access control, and you can add a geo restriction. So I will show you the Austin office, our old one. We are no longer near the cemetery. You can designate a geographic location where this app will prompt your browser to have the employee's location announced, I guess, and they can only check in if they're within that designated location. But what if they said, okay, I cannot go to the bar, but I can bring a Lone Star and sit in my parking lot, and then I can check in? But we have a safeguard for that as well. We did find a Lone Star in our parking lot, and we were like, that's him, that's the fraudulent check-in guy. So I'll go into settings, and I just go to allowed IPs, and I can add an IP restriction. So every Wi-Fi router has its own unique IP address, so you can add your office's unique IP address, and then the person who's checking in will just be able to check in if they're on your actual office Wi-Fi. So I also wanted to show you this performance module. Again, when I was doing my research for this presentation, in my research before this, I saw that a lot of people who are just entering the workforce will leave higher paying jobs for jobs that actually align with their long-term goals. So even though this might not look like something that your company would use, I would suggest looking into that just so you can have those employees' long-term goals in mind and keep your goals for them top of mind as well. So this is a good way to assign skills that they are expected to learn or want to learn, assign a score to that skill, and then weight the importance of that skill. Alrighty. And I also wanted to show you this leave tracking module. So there's a couple different views of this leave tracking module. Your holidays are here. It's a little bit different from organization to organization. You have to keep in mind the kind of culture of your company and your organization when you're setting this up, and also when you're setting up your leave, right? So this leave balance report will tell you how many sick days you have, how many vacation days, and it will also tell you the total. Another view of the same report is this leave taken report. So we can see here that Ken Parker has taken 5 days of vacation, and this will all be reported in your loss of pay report and, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to click that, and your payroll report as well. So I want to go into the settings for this leave tracker and show you that you can change what kind of entitlement a person has based on how long that they've been with the company. So if I put, let's see, year-based, or I'm sorry, experience-based leave is a better name for this. Experience-based leave. And this is just a unique code that you can use to reference that. Leave unit is days, description, it's in the name, so I'm not going to add something there. Applicable for all users. The accrual period is annual. It's not for all employees. If you see here, it's not going to be for all employees. It's going to be based on experience. So for new joinees, and we will say that new joinees have to have, let's say, 1 year of experience before they can have 5 days of leave. But that seems unfair to me, so I'm going to put 6 months of experience for 5 days of leave. So about a day per month, right? And then I can add some more experience. So if they have now 1 year, maybe they get twice as much, about. And then if they have 2 years and so on and so forth, they can have 2 weeks of leave, about. And so on and so forth. Does that all make sense? So you can customize your leave as well. So I'll go ahead and submit this. So that's a nice way to automate this. And I'm going to go ahead and just close this so I don't mess up my colleagues' reporting here. You want to make sure that you're avoiding you want to avoid manual leave tracking so that your accounting doesn't get messed up. And you want to communicate a clear and robust policy so that it's flexible and that everybody knows what it is. Absenteeism can lead to a lot of loss for the company. It can also increase burnout in other employees who are constantly covering for their absent colleagues. And you want to clearly define that so everybody is on the same page. And you can also set up, you can look up files on here. You can save files on here. So if you're going to add this and make sure that people are allowed to download the files here, everything's in one place for them. And you can also make an announcement on Zoho People, and then if you're interested, you can also integrate this with like Connect and with Click and other modes of communication and announcements. Okay, thank you.